Beyond the fight to finish in the top 4 this season, Manchester United have a huge summer ahead of them. Now that they have a permanent manager in Ole Gunnar Solskaer, they need to give him the funds to go out and improve the squad, and who knows, maybe even challenge for the title next season. So who should Ole Gunnar Solskaer sign? Well, that's what I've got coming up in the next few minutes, as a former Liverpool star, a 4 times Champions League winner, and some English youngsters make up this list of 5 players that Ole Gunnar Solskaer could potentially sign. First off, and it's one of those English youngsters I mentioned, and it's Declan Rice. To say that he is hot property at the moment is an absolute understatement. Fierce rumours have been circling recently that Manchester United, Man City and even Spurs are interested in the midfielder, so him and the club West Ham have had to come out and say on numerous occasions that he's absolutely fine where he is and won't be leaving. However, we all know that money talks. This isn't to say that he doesn't love West Ham, of course he does. He's a massive fan of them and he's getting to play out his dream. However, if Manchester United come in with the 60 odd million that it's going to take to prize him away, West Ham will definitely think about it. And this is without even taking into consideration his wage. Rice signed a new deal back in December which sees him earn potentially £50,000 a week. This is obviously absolutely nothing to the kind of money that he'd be on if he moved to Manchester United, so that will obviously be playing on his mind as well. The reason I think he'd fit in so well at Manchester United is because of the ageing Nemanja Matic and the underperforming Fred. With Declan Rice, he's got it all. He's got the aggression to constantly hustle opponents that win the ball back on a consistent basis, whilst also having great technique and a good eye for a pass forwards. It's this kind of defensive backbone in the midfield which has allowed the other players to go further forward and attack without worrying about being hit on the break. And on top of this, Declan Rice is only 20 years old, so any kind of huge investment they do make will surely pay them back in the years to come. Second on the list, and much again like Declan Rice, is someone who, if you pay the money up front now, it'll definitely be worth it in the future. In fact, if all it's going to take to prize wan-bissaka away from Crystal Palace is 35 million, that's pretty much worth it for one season alone. The Palace fullback has been in unbelievable form this season, so it's only natural that some of Europe's biggest clubs have been casting an eye over him. This is made all the more amazing by the fact that it's his first year as a professional. He made his debut at the end of last season, but this year has been flying. He's actually won 94% of his attempted tackles in the Premier League. That's more than some bigger names across Europe, the likes of Alexandro, Andy Robertson, Joshua Kimmich and João Cancelo. So with his evident tackling ability, his brilliant pace, strength and consistency, it seems like wan-bissaka would be a brilliant fit for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's men. On top of this, Ashley Young is going to be 34 in the summer, Matteo Darmian seems to be wanting to leave forever, and with Diego Dalot, him and wan-bissaka could mean that Manchester United have 2 of the most promising fullbacks in European football, and that's without even talking about the resurgence of Luke Shaw on the left-hand side. All in all, this will be a pretty stunning deal for United. Now, talking of defensive improvements, and our third player on this list is someone who has the most ridiculous resume for someone just 25 years old, and it's Raphael Varane. With Real Madrid, he's won everything there is to win in Spanish domestic football a fair few times. He's won 4 Champions Leagues, and he's also won the World Cup with France, so they don't get much better than him. Of course, because he's playing at Real Madrid and he's one of the best centre-backs in the world, he will cost a hell of a lot of money, but let me tell you why I've included him on this list, even if it's just a rumour at the moment. Now, one of the main reasons I've included him is because there's been lots of mumblings from the Raphael Varane camp that he isn't happy at Real Madrid and he's asked to leave. However, this may change in the upcoming weeks with Zinedine Zidane back in the club. Of course, Real Madrid have been through a pretty turbulent season, and it wasn't helped when Varane reportedly turned around and said that he wanted to go to Juventus to join Cristiano Ronaldo. Of course, this has opened up all sorts of possibilities, because as soon as one club hears that you're interested, a whole host of other clubs will come and join the race, one of them being Manchester United. I don't believe for a second that even though Zidane's come out and said that he's happy, that he truly is. I mean, Zidane also said that he was happy at Real Madrid last season after leading them to their 3rd consecutive UEFA Champions League title, but then he went and left, so we all know what happens. Despite this though, if Manchester United were to bring in the Frenchman, he would be an unbelievable signing. He'd have that Virgil van Dijk sort of effect on the rest of the defensive line. Whoever's playing with him would instantly become better. I also think it'd be a good move for United because in terms of other centre-backs, well, their options aren't actually that wide. Is that a word? No. If they manage to bring him in, and it's a big if, it will certainly be a better option than the likes of Toby Alderweireld, who, although going for a little bit cheap, is reaching his 30s, and Kalidou Koulibaly. Now, Koulibaly has been touted to join Manchester United for over 100 million. I'm not saying Varane will be cheap. Apparently, Real Madrid want the full 500 million euro clause, although I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. However, with Koulibaly, for as good as he is, he hasn't really proven himself yet. He's had a few decent years for Napoli in Serie A, but hasn't won anything of note, certainly not like Raphael Varane has, so Manchester United will be making a bit of a gamble signing Koulibaly. As mentioned before, the Varane deal is probably the least likely to happen, certainly the most least likely to happen on this list, but who knows? United fans, you can still dream. Okay, to number 4 now, and before we get to a ridiculously big transfer, we're going to move to a youngster who has really made the most of his time in Germany. Just under 2 years ago, Jadon Sancho made the move from Manchester City to Dortmund for around £8 million, and now he's been talked about as one of the best teenagers in Europe, and every single big club is being linked with him for moves from around 90 to £100 million. That's how good things have gone from him in the last 18 months or so. Now, straight off the bat here, I know you're going to have one question for me. Will a former Manchester City player go ahead and move to their biggest rivals in Manchester United just 2 years after leaving the Sky Blues? Well, I think so. The whole reason Sancho moved in the first place is because he wanted far more first-team football, which Manchester City couldn't offer him. Instead, they chose to make some big money signings like Bernardo Silva that summer. Sancho had a falling out with the club and then decided to leave, so I can really see him going back to their massive rivals Manchester United and haunting them for years to come. I'm not saying it'll be that easy, but the thought of it is something out of a Hollywood movie. Okay, I may have built up this move a little bit too much, but you can see where I'm going because Jadon Sancho is one hell of a player. With his dribbling, his speed, his skill, and his final ball, he's managed to set records across the Bundesliga this season, and his 16 assists in the league is more than any other player in Europe's top league. This is absolutely astonishing for someone who's just turned 19 years old. So if you were to move to Manchester United, can you imagine a front three of Sancho on the right, someone like Martial on the left, and Rashford through the middle? That's unbelievably frightening for any defence. We haven't even spoken about Lingard or Lukaku yet. Now, if you thought the last transfer deal was pretty big with Jadon Sancho moving to Manchester United, having played for Manchester City's youth teams, well, what about Philippe Coutinho moving to Manchester United? Just 18 months after leaving their biggest rivals, Liverpool. Suffice to say, he won't be the most popular bloke on Merseyside. Now, it's no secret to say that Coutinho's time at the new camp has not exactly been the most prolific of his career. Between constantly moving positions and not playing consistently enough in the first team, his time at the new camp has been marred, and apparently he's now looking for a way out. Now, with the price tag of £150 million, there's only a few teams who can afford him, and one of them is Manchester United. So with Manchester United able to pay that kind of fee, one of the major issues I do see in this move is the fact that Philippe Coutinho is a number 10, and Manchester United just don't play with one. With the base of their midfield, there are two players normally in there. It's two of either Matic, Herrera, Fred, or Scott McTominay. Paul Pogba plays a little bit further forward in a free role, but he isn't exactly a stereotypical number 10. Pogba can also drop deep, he can defend, he can attack, and apparently he's going to be moving to Real Madrid in the summer, so he may be gone altogether. Pogba's skills that he brings to the team are so unique that you can't exactly put him as a traditional number 10. So with that three in midfield, there is a three up front, which is the left wing, the right wing, and the centre forward, without a number 10 role. This is where you'll find the likes of Lingard, Lukaku, Sanchez, Rashford, Martial, and all the other attacking players at United. The only one they've really got who could fit to that number 10 role is Jesse Lingard. However, with Jesse Lingard, I think most Manchester United fans will admit that he isn't big enough or good enough of a player to command the whole team to be built around him in that number 10 role, so he fits in on the left or the right hand side. He does a fantastic job, he's a brilliant player, but he's not quite the star that you're going to build your team around like Philippe Coutinho would be. Now, he's not necessarily the big ego player that I'm speaking of, but he's that good that he would demand to be played in his proper position, because if you don't, you're just wasting a whole lot of money, as Barcelona have found out, especially if Manchester United are going to pay around 150 million to bring him in the first place. It's for this reason and the fact that United don't play with a traditional number 10 that I can see the Coutinho deal being highly unlikely. However, you never know. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer might completely change his tactics, and as I mentioned before, if Pogba does leave, it could mean that they could bring in a specific number 10, and Coutinho would definitely fit the bill. Just don't do what Barcelona did and play him out of position. So there you have it, 5 potential signings that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer could make at Manchester United in the summer. Of course, he won't be signing them all, because even though Manchester United do have a lot of money, they won't be spending £600 to £700 million on new players. From this list though, which one do you think is the most likely? For me, I think wan-bissaka looks the most likely to move. His price is fair, Crystal Palace don't have the same attraction that Manchester United do, and well, they're just a bigger club altogether. Especially if they're in the Champions League, they'll be able to attract a few players. If not, I don't think the likes of Varane or Sancho will be joining. Of course, let me know all your thoughts on this and more down in the comment section. United fans want to hear from you especially. Whilst you're down there, you can also smash the like button and click here to check out all of the other videos that we've got going on Onefootball. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.